Scientists warn California's major earthquake may strike sooner than expected. A reminder that's easy to forget on an ordinary afternoon when sunlight glistens off glass towers and palm trees sway gently in the breeze. California rarely feels dangerous in its quieter moments. Yet beneath that postcard calm lies a landscape shaped by violence. Tectonic violence. Every school earthquake drill, every slow-motion tremor you barely noticed, every time your mug rattled on the shelf and you dismissed it as a quirk of the West Coast, all of it hints at a deeper, older, and far more dangerous rhythm than most people realize. Now, beneath the steady hum of daily life, something is shifting. The scientific consensus is hardening, and it sounds like a warning bell echoing across the Golden State. California's next major earthquake may arrive far sooner than many are prepared for. New findings from USC suggest that numerous hidden or underestimated faults, some capable of generating magnitude 7 earthquakes, could be closer to rupture than previously believed. Researchers at the statewide California Earthquake Center and the US Geological Survey are, unusually, in alignment. The infamous Big One is no longer a distant specter confined to disaster movies or history books. It is a real and looming threat with a timeline that appears shorter and far less predictable than older seismic maps promised. How bad could it get? In Southern California alone, only 5 distinct seismic sequences have reached magnitude 4 or higher in the past year. To most residents, that registers as background noise rather than cause for alarm. But in seismology, quiet rarely means relief. More often, it signals pressure accumulating invisibly beneath the surface. The USGS estimates there is more than a 70% chance that a magnitude 6.7 or larger earthquake will strike the Bay Area in the coming decades. Increasingly, experts frame the issue not as if, but when, and not where, but how wide the destruction will spread. So why are scientists sounding the alarm now? And why is this latest research forcing a rethink of what we thought we understood about California's seismic future? For decades, the story has been simplified to iconic lines. The San Andreas Fault, cutting a scar up the spine of California. The Hayward, striking beneath the aging bridges of the East Bay. The lesser-known, but no less dangerous faults, weaving beneath LA, San Bernardino, and Riverside. But the truth is messier, more like a tangled spiderweb than a single tear. Scientists used to focus obsessively on the big-name faults, confident that reinforcing buildings near the strongest lines of weakness addressed the main threat. But recent research, notably from USC and seismic centers statewide, has shone a sobering light on underexplored, underestimated faults. The ones humans mostly ignore, but which the Earth never forgets. Some run quietly beneath suburbs thick with stucco ranch houses and freeways. Others thread through mountain passes and under rivers, their dangers hidden by time and concrete, aren't just capable of producing a nuisance tremor or a cracked highway. They hold the latent energy for magnitude 7 earthquakes, enough to buckle city blocks, snap transmission towers, and ripple through communities like dominoes falling in the dark. Adding to this is the understanding that these faults don't always act in isolation. Sometimes, the movement on one can trigger a sequence of activity on another, possibly even at a distance. History and geological evidence, including marine sediment records, show that a quake in one system can set off its neighbor with little warning, multiplying risk instead of simply releasing stress. It's like watching an old bookshelf. Pull on one volume and the others start to shudder, then topple together, the whole shelf collapsing in a single, unstoppable moment. And then there's a word now echoing across geology labs: supershear. Most terms in earthquake science are technical and easy to gloss over. Moment magnitude, slip rate, fault zone. But supershear stands out. A sharp word hinting at how much more violent an earthquake might be than we expect. So what is a supershear earthquake? And why does it make scientists pay closer attention? Typically, earthquake ruptures tear along a fault at speeds less than the speed shear waves move through rock. Like a crack racing down a sidewalk, always trailing just behind its own shudder. But in rarer, alarming cases, the rupture front breaks that rule. It accelerates, moving at velocities greater than the seismic waves it produces, a phenomenon called supershear. The analogy is a whip moving so fast it breaks the sound barrier and snaps, a geological version of that same whip crack. This is not mere science trivia. Supershear earthquakes concentrate seismic energy much more efficiently, focusing shockwaves and delivering especially intense shaking in certain areas, more like a focused beam than a broad, diffuse pulse. California is particularly susceptible. The state's patchwork of relatively straight faults, especially near the San Andreas, provide the perfect geometry for supershear propagation. Recent analysis from the statewide California Earthquake Center suggests that zones formerly seen as locked could, under the right conditions, facilitate these exceptionally fast ruptures. Even faults considered minor could, in the right scenario, allow a supershear burst through urban corridors. One crucial detail: current construction standards in California don't fully anticipate the damage profile of supershear earthquakes. Buildings, bridges, and overpasses are engineered for shaking based on the most common wave frequencies and historic data. Supershear quakes can deliver shaking that doesn't always fit those expectations. So why haven't we seen this disaster happen yet? Is it luck, or something yet untriggered? When it comes to predicting earthquakes, numbers can either soothe or sharpen our anxiety. They let us model and simulate, but the true moment always remains hidden until it arrives. The authorities don't mince words. After weighing decades of historical data, fault slip rates, and the choreography of crustal movement, the USGS now warns there's a 72% chance a quake of magnitude 6.7 or higher will strike the Bay Area by 2055. By any standard, a magnitude 6.7 earthquake is not a minor event. It's a city toppler, capable of shattering highways, collapsing older apartments, severing water lines, and igniting neighborhood fires. And that's just for the Bay Area. Across California, the odds play out like a roulette wheel. Southern California, the Central Valley, the high desert, no region is entirely immune. Every year without a major rupture is not so much a relief as it is a sign that pressure continues building invisibly. And perhaps most pressing, are we prepared for the next big one? Are cities, emergency systems, and the public really ready for the day when California's game of odds comes to an end? Look at the earthquake charts for 2025. By some measures, it's been quiet. Only 5 independent seismic sequences in Southern California have produced a magnitude 4 or above. For most residents, that's just a handful of low rumbles, the kind that draw a passing mention rather than urgent concern. But in seismology, quiet periods don't necessarily mean all is well. In fact, extended calm often raises concern. In such periods, strain can build along fault lines, subtly, invisibly, but relentlessly. It's happened before. History shows year-long lulls, broken without warning by destructive events. The Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 followed a relatively calm period. The 1994 Northridge quake emerged from a fault previously assumed to present minimal risk. Even experts didn't expect it, until LA was awakened at 4:31 a.m. Freeways and apartments toppled, and fires cast a red glow over the valley. California's apparent calm, then, should never be mistaken for true safety. GPS and strain meter data confirm that stress is accumulating throughout the region. The grinding of tectonic plates has proceeded for millennia, and the current era is no different. Meanwhile, newly mapped faults identified by USC researchers might not stand out in day-to-day data, but if a magnitude 7 quake starts there, millions could be affected in moments. So is this quiet just an interval of luck, or nature's way of winding a spring ever tighter, when the big one is no longer a myth? It's become something of a dark joke in California. When the big one hits, it shows up in news, in movies, in neighborhood discussions. But for experts, the The big one isn't just a dramatic device. It's an inevitability written into the history of the land. Experts agree, the big one is coming, sooner or later. There are debates about which fault will go first, how severe the shaking will be, and how many seconds of warning seismic networks might provide before everything changes. But no credible scientist denies the reality. Major earthquakes are not just possible, they are statistically inevitable along California's tangled network of faults. What does the big one mean exactly? It might be a massive San Andreas rupture, spanning hundreds of miles and threatening Los Angeles or San Francisco. It might also be a magnitude 7 shock on a less prominent but still potent fault, like the Newport Inglewood or the Puente Hills, erupting with little warning. Or it could mean something even more destructive, a supershear event, with the rupture's front racing ahead of conventional seismic expectations, delivering an amplified, focused energy wave in seconds. The USGS warns that a major event could arrive sooner than expected. Some experts see the big one's timeline as a matter of decades. Others are cautious, recognizing nature's unpredictable rhythms. The only certainty is that the ground will eventually move again. Imagine a rupture beginning deep below. Normally, the fastest signals travel through rock at several kilometers per second, racing ahead to provide seconds of warning before a shock arrives. But with supershear, the rupture itself can outpace even these warning waves, delivering its harshest blow before residents have time to brace themselves. This isn't merely hypothetical. Supershear earthquakes have been documented, including the 1979 Imperial Valley event in California, the 2002 Denali Fault earthquake in Alaska, and the 2018 Palu earthquake in Indonesia. In all these cases, the unique combination of accumulated strain and straight fault geometry allowed the rupture to accelerate in ways that dramatically intensified local ground shaking. In California, the risk is especially pronounced. Supershear shaking channels intense energy into focused corridors, amplifying peak ground accelerations beyond what most buildings are explicitly designed to withstand. Some structures built to ride out normal earthquakes may not fare as well against these unprecedented frequencies and impacts. Older construction is at particular risk. Soft-story apartments, unreinforced brick, and legacy freeway overpasses could all face catastrophic failure if a supershear rupture targets their neighborhoods. As always, fire is the second great danger in any major quake. With gas lines compromised and water supplies disrupted, fires can turn even a limited quake into a sprawling urban disaster. A single, supershear-enabled big one could change the fate of entire regions within just minutes. Are we prepared for a scenario not just larger, but much faster and more focused than any in recent memory? Stroll through Bay Area suburbs or past the glassy towers of downtown LA, and it's easy to feel reassured. California's building codes are famously tough, its high-rises engineered to sway instead of fall, its hospitals and schools retrofitted over the years. Earthquake drills are part of life. Generators and contingency plans seem to offer security. Yet, the latest research from USC, the statewide California Earthquake Center, and the USGS stresses a sobering point. Building standards and hazard assessments often lag the evolving science. Many codes were developed from models that didn't fully consider supershear or the complex interconnected behavior of faults. Even large, critical structures may not have been designed with the highest realistic peak accelerations in mind. Supershear events represent a particularly serious blind spot in preparation. Many buildings might survive a standard big quake only to be hit by unanticipated, higher frequency waves that exceed design standards. Utilities and lifelines are equally vulnerable. Freeway systems, especially older crossings, may not fare well if subjected to rupture configurations they were never tested for. Water mains and power lines, buried decades ago, could break en masse. Even earthquake early warning systems, which deliver precious seconds of notice thanks to networks of sensors and apps, may not be able to react quickly enough to a rupture that exceeds the speed of warning waves in rock. Preparation is vital, but modern Californians and their leaders must grapple directly with risks that outpace traditional blueprints. To understand the real stakes, it's helpful to revisit California's earthquake history. The region houses the scars of previous disasters. 1994's Northridge quake, a 10-second burst that caused up to $50 billion in damage. 1989's Loma Prieta earthquake, which collapsed bridges and caused devastation over 100 miles from the epicenter. Neither of those events was a supershear. They were bracing reminders that even conventional earthquakes can inflict severe harm. But the land itself has a longer memory. Geological studies using sediment cores and fault trenching reveal great earthquakes tracing back thousands of years. Long intervals of apparent tranquility, followed by clusters of major, repeating quakes. These records confirm that California's cycles of quiet and chaos are deeply rooted. The lesson is not to take periods of peace for granted. Earthquakes are not spread out by the calendar, but by the physics of accumulating strain. Earthquakes are more than local disasters. In California, the ripples travel far beyond the shaking ground. California's ports. The 1995 Kobe earthquake in Japan, for instance, was a local catastrophe that cost an estimated $200 billion and rippled through worldwide supply chains, affecting factories on other continents. If a supershear event or major rupture disables key California ports or distribution hubs, the economic shockwave would follow the networks that tie the region to the world. Grocery prices, factory operations, and logistics could all face cascading disruptions. Recovery, no matter how swift and well-funded, would take time.
So when seismologists urge preparation, not just for the shaking, but for its economic aftermath, they're warning about exactly these interconnected threats. For scientists, the latest findings are unmistakable signals. They're not just about statistical forecasts, but about altered scientific understanding now accepted almost universally. Hidden faults, the potential for supershear, underestimated hazards, and the deceptive assurance of quiet periods. California's government and its people are urged, ever more urgently, to treat earthquake preparation as more than just common sense, as a matter of survival. Evacuation plans, emergency shelters, adapting building codes for the possible impacts of supershear, not just the typical quake. Expanding retrofits beyond iconic bridges and skyscrapers, and including the vulnerable neighborhoods and infrastructures where the risks may be highest. Rethinking assumptions, recognizing that quiet years are not safe years, and that double blows or supershear scenarios are possible almost anywhere in the state. Industry also bears responsibility. Are ports and highways redundant or flexible enough to cope with lengthy disruptions? Can supply chains diversify in ways that prevent shortages, even if California's arteries are blocked for weeks at a time? Most importantly, are individual Californians mentally and practically prepared for a crisis that could arrive with only seconds of warning? Perhaps the greatest anxiety isn't the destruction itself, but the waiting, the decades, years, or sometimes mere weeks in which society tries to stay ready for an unpredictable disaster. Researchers acknowledge that the next major rupture could arrive any year, with mounting evidence suggesting the soon in sooner than expected is not as distant as some once hoped. The big one is no illusion. It's not a Hollywood invention, nor some regional myth. It's an event written in the very rock California stands on, set to return by the inevitable physics of shifting plates. Whether it comes as supershear or by more familiar means, it's now a question of when, not if. Each Californian, and all Americans linked to the vitality of the West, live with this knowledge beneath their feet. The warning is real, and the clock, by all measures, is ticking. If this story has made you think differently about the land under your feet, share it with someone you know. And if you're hungry for more of the truths hidden beneath everyday life, remember that curiosity and preparation go hand in hand. Stay aware, stay ready, and you might just be a little more prepared when the next chapter in California's seismic saga arrives.